Good morning. I think I'm live. I got a couple of strange messages. How is everyone this morning? Beautiful day. Beautiful day yesterday. Nature has no idea that we're going through a pandemic, does it? I just have a few announcements. First of all, I want to say wherever you are on your spiritual path, you're welcome here. And you certainly are. And I want to thank all of you who are supporting our spiritual community during this challenging time. And if you wish to donate, you can go to the links both on Facebook and on our website. And I think maybe, well, okay. And then later on today, we'll be on Facebook, archived on Facebook. I have a little something I want to ask you to do. The IT guy has outlined this for me, Ron Headley. Thank you, Ron. So I'd like to ask those of you who are watching live this morning to first of all check in, but to share the live video with others. So if you check in and then you hit the live video and then you hit the share button, lots of other people will get to watch along with you. And this is the way that we expand and grow our spiritual community, which of course is our absolute goal, to get this beautiful message out to more and more people. It's such a freeing message. It truly is. So, click on the love and share buttons. I enjoy seeing those as we go along. They go up my screen like these little hearts and these little thumbs up, and I love those. So if I have an idea that I share with you that you really like, hit the buttons on those. I really appreciate it. And this gives you a chance to be interactive too. So thanks so much. So I have a couple of announcements. Let's see, if for some reason that I get disconnected, I'll come back on. Just give me a few minutes. But that only happened initially. We haven't had a problem in the last month. So we are hoping to go back to meeting as a congregation on May the 23rd. We have some guidelines, and although I had been planning a big potluck and all that sort of thing, and a band and everything, it looks like that may not happen in phase one anyway. But it will happen. It's our dream. It's our vision, to be able to eat together, to be able to hug and shake each other's hands. So I'll proceed to the prayer list that I have for this week. Please pray for Nettie's daughter, Nicole, for divine protection. She's a healthcare worker, and of course all of them need divine protection in these challenging times. Please pray for my sister Diane for healing, and I thank you that she's doing really well, and she had the COVID test and it was negative, and we were all celebrating that. Please pray for Belinda's father Hans for healing, and her brother Oliver for divine guidance and strength. And then also please pray for Leah and Tim and their unborn baby for divine protection. The last I heard, she was in the hospital in Frankfurt, so I haven't gotten an update just yet. But we're holding her in the light of divine protection. And remember, if you would like prayer support, please write to me at revcarolunity@gmail.com or private message me on Messenger, and I'll be glad to share your prayer requests with everyone. Just remember, there is power in shared intention. There's power in shared prayer. So, Daily Word. And today's word in the Daily Word is world peace. The affirmation for today is, I contribute to peace in the world. When I learn of conflict in my community or in the world, my response may be frustration, sadness, or anger. If I have those feelings, I remember that I am more than merely human. I am a living expression of God, heir to all that God is. I use my divine faculties of wisdom, understanding, and love to create the abiding peace that is my birthright. Centered in divine peace, I realize that every person is as much an expression of God as I am. As differences dissolve in a way that transcends human understanding, I come to know oneness with the world's people. I let this realization shape my response to every person and every situation. In an awareness of my oneness with all people, my thoughts, words, and actions contribute to peace in the world. The scripture for today is taken from the book of John, chapter 17, verse 22. The glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one, as we are one. And again, the affirmation for today is I contribute to peace in the world. All right. So I thought it apropos that I share with you a meditation this morning on world peace. So I'm going to turn our music on and we'll begin. And I invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to close your outer eyes. In the beginning God. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And just allow my words to be the words of your own heart. I now open my heart and let the pure essence of unconditional love pour out. I see it as a golden light radiating from the center of my being. And I feel its divine vibration in and through me, above and below me. I am one with the light. I am filled with the light. I am illumined by the light. I am the light of the world. With purpose in mind, I send forth the light. I let the radiance go before me to join the other lights. I know this is happening all over the world at this moment. I see the merging lights. There is now one light. We are the light of the world. The one light of love, peace, and understanding is moving. It flows across the face of the earth, touching and illuminating every soul in the shadow of the illusion. And where there was darkness, there is now the light of God. And just take a few moments in the silence to have this light from within you go forth out into the world in the places of darkness where it's needed. Let's do that together this morning for a few moments in the silence. In the beginning God, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And that light, as our master teacher taught us, is within us. Today, we let that light shine in the name of world peace. We say yes to peace within and without and all around. And so it is. Amen. Amen. The title of my talk this morning is Outrageous Spirituality, and I love it. So I'll begin this morning by defining, as in found in Webster's dictionary, what it means to be outrageous. And they have written flagrantly contrary to law, order, or decency. So let me be clear. When I talk about outrageous spirituality, I'm not talking about anything illegal or indecent, but I am talking about those experiences that are really seem to be out of order compared to the usual order of things. So I think that's interesting. And what I'd like to say to you is that we are called to outrageous spirituality. You might not think so, but you are totally being called. You're called to do that which defies the intellect, defies common sense, defies all that you may have been taught in the past. We are called to our true nature, and in answering that call, we do the greater works that Jesus predicted we would do. Yes. Something in my eye this morning. All right. This is wonderful about being alive. If your nose itches, you got to scratch it or blow it, or there's something in your eye. Oh my goodness, there's no editing here. All right, everybody remember Todd Beamer. He was the passenger on that jetliner, United Airlines flight number 93 that flew over Pennsylvania. And do you remember when they went after the terrorists that his last words were, "Let's roll"? Can you imagine that? I just think that is outrageous. Those were his last words spoken as he and the passengers charged those terrorists on 9/11. His last words before that plane went down in that field in Pennsylvania instead of going into the White House and the Pentagon. Wow. Outrageous words, outrageous action, outrageous spirituality. So in contemplating the heroism of Todd Beamer, I share with you today a reading from the Tao. This is verse 50. The Master gives themselves up to whatever the moment brings. They know that they're going to die, and they have nothing left to hold on to, no illusions in their mind, no resistances in their body. One doesn't think about their actions. They flow from the core of their being. They hold nothing back from life. Therefore, they are ready for death. And this is the outrageous part. As one is ready for sleep after a good day's work. Wow. Isn't that incredible? Todd gave himself up to whatever the moment brought. He knew he was going to die. He held nothing back. He had no resistances in his body. He didn't think about his actions. They just flowed from the core of that man's being. He gave all he had. And it's interesting because Todd was obviously ready. Obviously. I haven't read his story, and I've not read the biography that his wife wrote, but what I do know is that they met at a Christian college outside of Chicago, and Todd taught Sunday school every Sunday in his church. And it's obvious that he had been practicing the spiritual principles in his life for a very long time. The decision that he came to wasn't one that he came to easily, but it came from years of practicing spiritual principles and living out the truth of who he was as a spiritual being. Years and years of practicing these spiritual truths enabled him to stand up and say, "Let's roll. Let's roll." So the next story that I have this morning that I want to share with you about outrageous spirituality is about a woman by the name of a patrolman, excuse me, by the name of Officer Bernice Johnson. And it's taken from this wonderful book, Chocolate for the Woman's Soul. I've had it for many, many years. The subtitle is 77 Stories to Feed Your Heart and Warm Your Soul. Oh, feed your spirit and warm your heart. Excuse me. This story within this book is called Angel on Patrol. I hope you enjoy it. Police officer Bernice Johnson was working the graveyard shift in downtown Portland, Oregon, one wet, cold night. While cruising, she heard a call go out over the radio about an accident on one of Portland's 8 bridges. Officer Johnson was 20 minutes away from the site of the accident, but she had a strong gut feeling to assist the responding officer. There was no logic to the tug that she was feeling. Backup had not been requested, and there were officers closer to the scene than she was. But she proceeded anyway across the Marquam, one of the bridges crossing the Willamette River, separating Portland east from west. The call was handled quickly, and she started driving back toward the other side of town. Again, she had a strong gut feeling, which held her back from taking the next 2 bridge entrances. As she was nearing the Fremont Bridge, she heard a voice inside of her say, "Turn here." As Officer Johnson started across the Fremont, she noticed a small car parked illegally off the side of the roadway. The car had its flashing lights on. Seeing a man and a woman in the parked car, she began her routine check. She peered into the car and asked, "Is there a problem here?" "Yes," the woman responded, tears streaming down her face. "My husband wants to kill himself by jumping off the bridge." Procedure calls for the officer to take a suicidal person into custody for an evaluation. Officer Johnson's intuition told her to talk to the despondent man who was sitting behind the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. She began by giving him reasons why he should not take his life. She told him that nothing was so bad that he needed to take his life over it. 15 minutes later, she didn't know what else to say. He looked like he was about to cry, and she reassured him by saying, "It takes a strong and sensitive man to be willing to cry. That's how we get our grief out." The man placed his head in his hands, slumped over, and began to weep. Officer Johnson silently prayed, "What do I do now?" In the back seat, Officer Johnson noticed a baby boy. She told the young father about her own hurt as she grew up with a dad who was emotionally unavailable. The officer reminded him that no matter what he was going through, he could still love and care for his little boy. He could be there to nurture his child, to encourage this small boy as he grows, and to make his son feel safe in the world. The man cried even harder, and this time Officer Johnson heard God's voice say, "Be quiet." She prayed silently again, "What do I do now?" It came to her to consciously send this anguished man healing light. Whether she was moving traffic along or just standing near the car, shivering, she continued to see him surrounded by this bright light. An hour later, like a flower responding to a good watering, the suicidal man rose up from the shower of loving light being beamed on him by Officer Johnson. The officer asked the young man to come sit in her patrol car. She had a feeling he wanted to talk with her alone, but before she let him go, he told her about all the mistakes he'd made in his life. He talked of his problems with his mom and dad. He shared his feelings of despair. His demeanor became soft and peaceful, as if he'd gone through an emotional cleansing. This once suicidal man turned to the officer and thanked her for being there for him. She touched his arm and whispered gently, "Before you go, I want to tell you something," she said. "No matter where you would have gone tonight, I would have found you. I would have found you." Wow. Oh my goodness. She had a strong gut feeling. Remember, I mentioned that in the story. She had a strong gut feeling. There is a physician by the name of Dr. Michael Gershon, Gershon, who wrote The Second Brain. And what he said in this book is there are hundreds of billions of nerve cells in our gut that send messages to our brain. So we do have a second brain. There is something to that saying, I have a gut feeling. There is something to honoring that solar plexus chakra when you say, you know, I check it before I make important decisions. I don't just make decisions with my head. Oh, wow. Ooh. I make decisions with my source of divine wisdom. And I call it my truthometer. If someone says something to me and I'm questioning whether it's true or not, I check out the truthometer. And it tells me, yes or no, this is the truth or this is not something that is for you, Carol. So that's how it all begins. And that's how this story began, with a strong gut feeling. All of us, every one of us without exception, has divine wisdom within us. We have that power given to us by Spirit, by God, by the universe. We have that gift given to us by the universe, by God, by Spirit. Oh, it's so wonderful, and we need to practice it, getting in touch with it. When we pay attention to it, and when we heed its promptings and its guidance, we're always blessed, and usually, almost always, others are blessed as well. So it's about wisdom, not about intellectual knowledge, about wisdom of the soul and wisdom of the heart. And she said to him, no matter where you would have gone tonight, I would have found you. No matter where you would have gone tonight, the Christ in me, the God self in me, would have found you. Would have found you. Wow. So this faculty of mind, as we call it in Unity, divine wisdom, is a power and a gift. And it helps us to discern what is good and right and true. When we activate it and go within for its insight, it lights the way to our next right and perfect step. Remember, she kept praying, what do I do now? She was asking God in the universe, what do I do now? She got that guidance. She absolutely got it. So I just want to say that it is our divine nature to be wise. So I have some funny wisdoms to share with you this morning. I hope you enjoy them. I got to have something funny in here. We got to have some fun during these challenging times. Here's Phyllis Diller's wisdom. I want my children to have all the things I could never afford. Then I want to move in with them. Okay, more wisdom. These next two are supposedly true stories. Driving back from a car repair class, John said to his buddy Joe, now mind you, they're in a car repair class. He says, I'm going to turn now. Could you stick your head out the window to see if the blinker is working? Sure, Joe replied as he peeked outside. It is. No, it isn't. It is. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Who could make these things up, really? One more story about wisdom, and I know that this is absolutely true. A wildlife biologist with the Maine Department of Fisheries and Wildlife told the story of a man who called to request that the deer crossing sign on a road near his home be taken down because a number of deer had been hit there. And the fishery guy said he wanted the deer crossing sign taken down because he didn't want the deer to cross there anymore. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have a story that I had recorded, but I wasn't able to find it this weekend, but I do remember it pretty much by heart. And it's a wonderful story of outrageous spirituality, and I want to share it with you. There were two elderly sisters who lived in the Midwest and had planned or had longed for years and years to go to New York. And they were up in years. I don't know, I think they were like their mid-80s or something like that. And they had never really traveled before. So they read everything they could about New York. And the one thing they read about New York which bothered them was how much crime there was there. And how, many places in New York were really unsafe. So, but they decided this was on their bucket list and they were going to do it. So they got on the plane and they went to New York and they arrived at their hotel. Everything went about really great. The trip had been safe and no problems. So they go to get on the elevator, and at the same time, a very athletic looking black man and his dog decide to get on with them. Well, they looked at each other and they were afraid. I don't know how else to say it, but they were. I don't know what was going on there, but just a stranger, and he was a pretty large man. So they start traveling up the elevator, and the next thing you know, this man yells in this really loud, booming voice, "Sit!" So the next thing you know, they're clutching their purses really tight, and they just go up against the back of the elevator, and they just slide down the wall, and they both are sitting. So this is a true story. So the next thing you know, he gets off before they do, and they go on up to their room, and everything's fine, no problem. And they're like, they get to the room and go, "Oh, we're safe, So they have a wonderful time in New York. Absolutely nothing happens but enjoyment. And they go down to pay for their room. And the desk clerk comes back and says, "Your room has been paid for." And they went, "What?" Because they don't know anybody in New York. They don't know anybody in this whole area. And they're thinking to themselves, wow, who would pay for our room? And so the next thing you know, the clerk comes over and says, "And they want you to read this note." So they stood over to the side of the lobby and opened the note. And it said, "Dear ladies, I hope you enjoyed your visit to New York. And I want you to know that you gave me the biggest laugh and the most fun of my life. And I want to repay you for that. Signed, Reggie Jackson." The ball player. Oh my gosh. Isn't that fantastic? And that definitely is a true story. So, a lot of fun things today. So, and I would like to point out, I don't think that it had anything to do with the idea that this man was a black man. I don't think it was a racist thing on their part. I just think they were scared, to be alone with anybody they didn't know on the elevator, and somebody yelling, "Sit," to them, or they thought it was his dog. All right, and everybody remembers Dead Poets Society movie, right? With Robin Williams. Oh my gosh. Do you remember that scene where he took them down to the gym and they went over to the trophy case? And, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "Listen, boys, these guys, they're all 6 feet under right now, but they all had dreams just like you have. And do you think they realized their dreams? Did they? Did they not?" I mean, that was the whole point. He was really trying to inspire them to seize the day and seize the moment when he jumped on the desk and said, "Carpe diem, boys, carpe diem." We're being called to outrageous spirituality. And we may not be called to do something to save another's life, and yet again we might. We may be called to do something else. And I would like to point out that there are no real degrees of outrageous spirituality. If you in your life have overcome something that has really been challenging and difficult, I don't know what that looks like. It could be a relationship challenge that you overcame and moved through with grace. It could be a health challenge. It could be a tremendous financial challenge. It could be any of those things wherein you demonstrated outrageous spirituality. It could be any of those things. So all of these people that I talked about this morning were ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's us. Each one of them demonstrated this outrageous spirituality, and not one of them preached to anyone. Not one of them mentioned their religious affiliations. Not one of them said they were Christian or they were Jewish or they were Muslim. Not one of them. So again, I remind you that verse 50 in the Tao says, one doesn't think about their actions. They flow from the core of their being. And friends, it flows from the core of their being because they practiced it day in and day out. They practiced their spiritual principles day in and day out. Each of these people were in touch with the core of their being. Each of these people were in touch with the divinity within them. Each was in touch with their inner promptings and their divine wisdom within. Each was in a place of unconditional love and service. So I ask you this morning, the question I pose to you is, are you feeling as if these challenging times will never end, as if it's never going to be solved, as if you just can't endure one more day of it? Do you feel the odds are against us and as if we won't ever be the same again? If you do, if so, these are the times that call for outrageous spirituality. When we are prompted to draw from deep within our soul to find the courage and the wisdom to persevere, this is when we're most called. And not only to persevere, but to bring that light from within us outward to share with others around us, to have the courage and the wisdom to have all of that light, all of that wisdom, all of that love come alive within us. When we move through these difficult times and experiences and rise above them as a result of practicing our oneness with the infinite, we give others hope too that they can rise. That's the point in sharing these stories, is these people gave us hope that we too can rise to the occasion. It shows that the human, the divine spirit is indomitable. We are fully human. We are fully divine. So I'm going to close this morning with a favorite quote from my favorite poet, Emily Dickinson. I love you, Emily, wherever you are. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life, the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto its nest again, I shall not have lived in vain. So remember, each of you, you are meant to live a life of outrageous spirituality. And whether you stop and pull over to the side of the road to help a little bird in need to cover, whether you save someone's life, giving your own life that some others may live, the degree of outrageousness is not what is important. What is important is that we bring forth that which is within us, which is that oneness, that oneness. And I urge you in your prayer time to ask God, how may I live a life of outrageous spirituality in your name, God? How can I do that? And you will be shown. You will have the God thoughts that say, turn here. Remember Patrolman Bernice? Turn here. And it might seem an outrageous God thought, but I'll tell you, the more outrageous it seems, the better it is. And the more it's yours, the more it is something that God has placed you here, has called you here, I should say, to better phrase it, has called you here to do and to be. So God bless you. I love you. I just love spending Sunday mornings with you. And stay tuned for next week. I almost never know till Monday or Tuesday what I'm going to be covering. But I hope it'll be something that you enjoy listening to. And I so enjoy being with you. I send each one of you love. And God bless you. I love you. Amen.